The shit fucking connects. Connecting. I have no idea if this is
I got a
work.
notification on my phone. Oh shit, my flashlight's on.
Oh, Facebook Live looks like it's connected.
Apparently there's a lot of Reverend rants.
Just like me to be basic. I'm a basic bitch.
That you are, my friend. That you are.
See,
Yep.
The Straight Beef is proud to announce its new reoccurring feature, Reverend Rants.
All right, so we're golden on Facebook. Facebook is up and running. What else?
We need your Google to show up first, Todd.
My what?
When we Google you, we need to show up at least the first page.
I'm not paying Google for that feature.
Oh, come on.
Google can lick my balls.
Ew.
That's my new saying now. I say that all the time.
What? That people can lick your balls?
Lick my balls.
That's disgusting.
We are live on YouTube now.
I don't think Tony's ever seen Rick and Morty.
No,
Twitch.
I don't even know.
You've never seen Rick and Morty, have you?
I don't think I have.
Twitch is still trying to connect, but we're good on Facebook and we're good on YouTube.
Okay.
So I guess that's something. Now trying to keep track of this is going to be a joy. All right, so I'm going to just run with it.
Go.
Whether YouTube runs or not. Welcome to the Ascension Show. I'm Northern Rebel, joined with Reverend Todd and T-Bone. Today we're talking about Daddy and Mommy Doms and Littles dynamics. Special guest appearance from Innermind, and Ms. Rhea is joined with Reverend Todd.
Here in Black and Blue Productions Studio East.
Yeehaw!
That's her.
So
And I'm still me.
So I guess the first thing I want to bring up is the Daddy Dom, Mommy Dom, Littles dynamics has absolutely nothing to do with incest or pedophilia. I was trying to prep for the show, and motherfucker, are people insane about that. They think that that's what it's all about, and it isn't.
If you go on my profile on Fetlife, you'll see a little piece that I wrote about it. I don't know, 4 years ago, expressing the frustration that people really misunderstand the dynamic, and accuse you of some pretty heinous shit overall.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's kind of insane.
And that's not to say there isn't such a thing as incest play, and that people sometimes don't incorporate it into the dynamic, but it's not built into the dynamic. If that makes sense.
So what kind of harassment do you get? I mean, unless you tell people, are you getting messages on Fetlife? Are you know what I mean? How do you get these complaints or these attacks?
It's more of if you tell people that, well, first off, if you tell someone that you're a daddy dom, you have to be very explicit in the sense of you have to say, I am a daddy dom. I am not a leather daddy. That's a different thing, because there are people who will confuse the two.
Good point.
And then you have to be explicit and say, and I don't do incest play. Because the first place that people go is, you want to fuck little girls. Anytime the word daddy is incorporated, the first assumption often is, and I'm talking more from probably people who are fairly new to the world of kink, and don't have a lot of history with it, but the term daddy, and I've had people that I've dated, where the concept of calling someone daddy has come up, and they've been like, oh God, no, that would just dry my pussy up like you can't believe.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
That's not their thing.
It's fair. It's not their kink. But they're like, anybody who wants to be called daddy is just fucking weird.
That's a bit of closed-mindedness on their part then. I mean, they're not... are they in the lifestyle at all, or are you just talking about normal, vanilla, everyday life?
Well, both. Because I remember one girl who was pretty vanilla, who said it, which I would have expected from someone who's pretty vanilla, and then one girl who was fairly new to the lifestyle and hadn't really been exposed to that yet. But I think there's kind of a misunderstanding even among some people who've been in the kink world for a long time.
Yeah, to some degree, I would.
I think there's a lot of different. I've dated a few guys that were into the daddy thing, and like some were, you know, just I don't know, surface daddy doms, you know. So it was more. I don't know how to say it. There was no diapers. There was no bottle feeding. You know, I mean, that gets into, to me, a deeper level of more full-time kind of daddy dom.
I think the term there would probably be caregiver.
Yeah, I think it's still a daddy dom, daddy little dynamic. Yeah. But do we call it something different when they get into that level? I mean, I think that when you get into a relationship with somebody in that aspect, you're picking an age.
Well, littles, okay, so you're little, and littles generally kind of define themselves by a particular age, don't they?
Yeah, I can go back and forth. Some of them will, you know, feel like they're younger than they are. Some still feel like they're teenagers. It just depends person to person where they feel comfortable at. Some people will play, you know, as a baby, and some will do damn near 18 years old.
Right. I think the idea is that the daddy mommy dom role, it's about a nurturing role,
right?
And you're allowing the little to who's got like a childlike personality to just be themselves. They're not having to hide, pretend, or act or role play anything out. They're just being themselves, and the daddy or the mommy's nurturing that, protecting them.
Do you think that they have issues? So say the girl littles have daddy issues, or the boys have mommy issues.
I think all women have daddy issues, Tony.
Really?
Well, some definitely.
Are you saying that men are terrible parents?
What? No, we're awesome.
I know. I think using the term daddy issues, there are an enormous number of women who have daddy issues in kink and outside of kink. Both.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, there are. There truly are.
I think that exists in both places, in a large extent, and partly because I blame our fucking society. We don't encourage men to be nurturing and treat their daughters in a certain way, so girls grow up with daddy issues.
Why does this? I don't understand why you're blaming society. What does society have to do with the way you raise your child?
Society does a shit job of teaching men to be parents of daughters. Men are great being parents of sons.
Oh, because I think that there's always a special bond between a father and a daughter. It's different from a mother and a son. And I don't think that society. How does society not teach you that?
Because I think men are pigeonholed into a certain role of when children come into the world, into the life.
Right, you spoil the girl. Lives. You spoil the girl.
I have a daughter.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, growing up, I guess my impression, probably from society, was that the father was the one who spoiled that was his role. I mean, it was his daddy's little princess, daddy's little girl. I mean, that was my idea, and maybe I got that from society because I was not that. You know, I didn't have that relationship with my father, but I grew up thinking that's the way it should be.
But so don't you, that in and of itself, don't you think that would create daddy issues? I mean, first off,
I have daddy issues, please. Yeah. Oh, I have big time. I have daddy issues.
No, not you, baby.
I have mother issues, daddy issues, you name it.
All issues.
Yeah, I have issues. Let's just say that.
I guess it's tough. It's tough for me because I identify at least in some sense as a daddy, and in some sense as a dominant, and like we talked before, in some sense as a predator, not a predator like Roy Moore.
Yeah,
Vote for Roy Moore.
Oh shit.
But in a primal sense. But I think it's tough because there's I think that there is a little bit of a cloud that hangs over a daddy dom from some people in their perception, because you are seen as being predatory to, one, younger women, two, women who are, for lack of a better way to put it, not good at adulting, and three, women who have daddy issues.
Well, I think it's hard for an older woman like myself to be okay in that role of being a little, because there are times that I am a little, and it's not very acceptable because I'm a responsible adult. I'm a mother of 4 kids, so it's kind of out of place. It feels comfortable when I'm just in that dynamic with that person, but if I go outside in the world, then it's not as comfortable because
you call me daddy and people look at you weird.
Right.
I mean, you're
like
hearing
out in public, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But if a younger, like Todd, if you were to take out a younger woman and she did that, then they wouldn't really think much of it.
I disagree. I think they would substantially think much of it.
Well, it depends on what you're doing.
Unless
I mean,
they
if she's
thought
got her
maybe
tongue
you're
down
her
your throat,
actual
that's
father.
different.
right. As long
Yes,
as right.
yes. So you could still play that role, and unless, like I said, unless she had her tongue down your throat, people aren't really going to say much.
I think that's when you should do it out in public.
What? Put your tongue down someone's throat?
If someone younger than you you're out in public and they call you daddy, and people assume that you're their father, that's when you touch them inappropriately right in front of everyone.
Exactly. I agree.
Because
it's a
if
shock
you
value.
freak people out in public, what good is life?
I know, right?
But they didn't consent to that.
What, the people out in public?
They're out in public. Of course they did.
Oh, Lordy have mercy.
Let's say. I guess the thing is, a little is a mindset that I don't think is I mean, I'm going to defer a lot of this to a little, but I think most people who identify as littles, regardless of their age, they're fully functional grown-up adults. They do adult things. They pay bills. They go to work. They drive a car. They have car insurance, and they do, all the grown-up stuff. And they, a lot of them have children. They raise children. They're parents, and they don't sit around with a stuffy and a blanket like 24/7 and wait for someone to change their diaper. You know what I mean?
Right.
They have an adult life. They have a life that they live day in and day out. A little is part of their personality. I mean, what's your... You say something on this part. You're the little, I'm not.
Well, it's always weird, like, yeah, cool. What
Okay.
were we talking about?
Lean in.
You'll remember at some point, right?
Maybe. They're definitely not a little 24/7 by any means. I have a life. I got a kid to take care of, so you can't just be that part of yourself all of the time, unfortunately. For me, dealing with the day-to-day life and adult crap and the kid stuff, it's more of an escape at this point in my life. It can't be a 24/7 thing for me, and just more like escape from the adult life, the grown-up reality. It's more my getaway from that. That makes sense.
So I guess if I had to rephrase it, it would be very much like being a submissive. You're not going to be a submissive 24/7 usually. Most people don't do 24/7. I think we need to be clear about that. I don't see where most people do submissive 24/7.
I think for everybody, it's just different. For every dynamic, it's different. It's just like being submissive is different. I don't want somebody to tell me what to wear every fucking day.
Right. Well, don't you just wear scrubs every day?
Scrubs?
No. I don't know. What do you wear?
Jeans and whatever. I wear whatever I want, really.
Well, she works in a pretty male-dominated field to begin with, so she kind of dresses down, doesn't really show off that she's feminine because of the crowd she's in.
That came up on the last episode, too.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
So, and I would never, I mean, sometimes I'm a little at work. Just if you know what to look for, you'll see that it comes out in different ways, and it just depends on how safe I feel around the person I'm doing it.
Okay. And I guess that's where daddies, especially people who are like my age, who are at least to a certain extent daddies, is we get to walk that walk all day long if we want to. People sort of expect that from us to a certain extent. Oh, you're an older, responsible adult man. You're supposed to be in charge of shit. That's kind of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I get some of that, like the mommy thing, and now I can't do the mommy thing. Nope.
And I wish we could have got a mommy for this episode, because I think the mommy son dynamic is probably substantially different than a daddy little dynamic.
I think it probably is.
Have you known?
I've known a few people. It's definitely a little bit different for sure. It's like, girls have the daddy issues, the dudes have the mommy issues, and it's its own separate little thing.
But mommy is probably like daddy dom is kind of to me an environment where you have this person who is nurturing and caring and blah blah blah, but this person also is perfectly okay with putting bruises on you in all sorts of fashion.
Right.
Well, now you're talking about mixing, the sadomasochist with being a daddy, and I know I personally have trouble with that. I can't switch between the two.
Yeah.
It's
like you can't go from nurturing to ass beating in a quick short order.
No, it doesn't. My mind doesn't flip like that.
There's no punishment like the spanking. Spanking is part of that.
That don't really fall into that whole sadism end of it, though. Sadomasochistic play for me is completely separate. It just is. I can't cross-wire it in my head.
Okay. And I think that's probably a lot of people. I know one couple, and I just want to say this. I know one couple where he is mostly like a daddy dom, and she is kind of a little, at least a middle. Is that the correct term? Yeah. A middle. And he can be very nurturing and caring and all that, but he cannot beat on her. He can't cross that bridge from daddy to inflictor of pain. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he's not a sadist.
I love her too much, and she's too precious. I can't do that to her.
Right.
So I know that they play with other people so that she can get the masochistic stuff that she wants, but she has to get that from other people. She cannot get that from him because of the dynamic that they have and the way he views her. But I find that very interesting, because that it really is like the extreme of what Paul said. You can't make the switch quickly or make the switch in a rapid fashion, and they can't make the switch at all.
Right. It's just impossible for me to make that switch. I mean, I'm either one or the other. I can't do both at the same time.
Right.
I think it could be the taboo aspect.
I know that there are people who have what I'm going to consider a version of a daddy little relationship or a mommy son relationship, and that is their big driver is there's a taboo, and they will do actual like incest role play.
Who?
And that's
Who?
Just people I've read on Fetlife, that we've written stuff on Fetlife.
Yeah, see, I can't go to...
Nobody I know personally.
What aspect of it do you consider the incest part of it? I mean, what different things are you referring to that make it incestual versus just daddy dom?
Oh, let's see.
To me, that just makes it wrong. But
okay, I'll give you a perfect example. So, I won't say I did try it. I did dabble and try it with a submissive that I had about 5 years ago. Okay, and we had a sort of a daddy little relationship, and so I did make the effort to try it, and it was more when we were engaged in sexual play, it was more like, better be quiet. I don't want mommy to find out about this. Blah blah blah, that kind of thing. It was more of a talk kind of role play thing.
Right.
I had some real difficulty with it, so we only tried it the one time. Now for her, it was instant arousal.
Right.
So, and I think that there's...
But I don't consider I guess I don't consider that the incestual... I just consider it part of the role play.
Well, that's what I mean. It's incestual role playing is what you're doing. You're actually role playing that this person is a relative or a trusted caregiver, father figure, could be uncle. I think I was pretending to be your uncle.
and you're having sex with them, but that's no different to me than the daddy dom role. You're still having sex with them. Why is that not incestual then?
It's a different thing.
Yeah,
I don't know how to define it.
Yeah, it's a completely different thing. When in the daddy, mommy, dom type thing, with the little, I'm not picturing them as being one of my kids or
she has to be
or something to that effect. That's just fucking wrong in my head. But
we still have the dynamic between you and I that about the mommy is in the other room or mommy shouldn't know thing. We've done that.
But it's still not picturing you in, it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that I view it. It's not picturing you in that role per se. It's just not. It doesn't. And I know what Paul's driving at, and I can't really iterate it better than he is. But what I can tell you is there's hopefully Innermind can.
There's a kind of mental disconnect in that, whereas it looks like to an outside, like you would think it would be incest roleplay, and it's incestual, but at the same time we are like, well, it's roleplay, and we wouldn't really treat, we wouldn't, cross this bridge in any way, shape, or form, and we wouldn't even, think about this with someone, like if you were about the same age and looked like my daughter, I would be completely fucking creeped out by it.
So what you're saying is you don't get into role play with women that look like your children.
Right. That's for sure.
Well, that's why I don't date guys that are, I draw the age limit that my kids can't be, that the people I get involved with wouldn't be younger than my oldest child.
Right.
Because I start getting that mother, and I dated a couple guys that were younger, and I started feeling like I was their mother. I started taking on that role, and that was very real for me. That wasn't role play. And then I was like, no, I can't do this because it would never be a sexual thing. It would always be just a platonic thing.
Right.
But I just start caretaking, and I do that to a lot of people, but specifically younger men. I can't do the mommy thing because I am a mommy. And so that's why I wonder how men or women do it when they have children, how they separate that, because it's different for me when I'm when I behave like a little, because I'm not taking that role, but I'm a parent. So how would I separate that? And I don't really know that I can do that. So how do you separate it, Todd?
Well, first off, I don't consistently date people who are, anywhere close to my daughter's age. I dated one, but that's out of a long history of dating. But the other part too is I try to make sure that people are, even if I were going to date someone who was close to my daughter's age again, I would make sure they were a very different personality than my daughter, my actual daughter. Because you have to keep to me, I have to keep some separation of it. Like, this person is clearly a different person, different personality, different behaviors, things like that. If there was a person who was relatively near my daughter's age who was a lot like my daughter, I could be their mentor. So they're, and mentoring to me is kind of a daddy or mommy role.
Yes, I agree.
Without any of the sexual stuff, it's
right.
really kind
platonic.
of that role,
right?
In a platonic fashion.
I could do that as well.
And that's, I would be able to do that with someone, but as soon as anything intimate came through, no, I couldn't. The cats are being entertaining behind.
Well, if it's a so age doesn't matter to you, Todd.
I think age doesn't really matter. It's more a matter of mentality and life experiences. And what am I looking for? Am I looking for a relationship? Am I looking for a play partner? Am I looking for someone to mentor? That kind of thing.
Right. And
did you guys buy a motorcycle?
Comes with living too close to the street.
Ah.
But for me, it's my little comes out when I feel safe. And
as that, I think most people, their little mindset, they have to feel. Don't you have to feel like you're in a safe and secure space?
And or if somebody gives me a stuffy, because if somebody gives me a stuffy, I am totally in the little space, especially if it's really soft and cuddly.
She's not complaining about the penguin.
No, I can see that.
But I think too, it's you when you take on the role of a little or a daddy, it's kind of just natural who you are. Like, I will treat, if someone's, I think being a daddy is really nothing more than you are a gentle and kind person to people, no matter who they are. And you're sort of seen as like wise for life.
Well, I look at it, for me, I look at for a daddy that is in some ways would treat how I would treat a child and protect that child. You know what I mean? I'm protecting, the way I look at it is you're protecting that inner child, that little. And so
you are.
You're nurturing, you're protecting, you're defending, you're hard if they need to be, the tough love kind of thing. But you're doing it in that aspect of, I guess, I just look at it as like a parent role.
But why wouldn't you do that as a normal dom sub? I mean, if you're any kind of half-assed dominant, wouldn't you do the same thing to a submissive? You'd protect them, you'd care for them, all those things also apply.
Right, but you also have to have that mindset that you're aware that they are a little. And that's that's when the dynamic shifts. Because they are in a different headspace. You have to respect that and nurture that instead of viewing them as a submissive, because to me it's different. The views are different. But that's only from a little or a submissive viewpoint.
Right. But that's really the viewpoint that kind of determines it, doesn't it? If you don't have a little, you're not a daddy.
Right, but do you think that some people are just not daddies, or can they become daddies, or is that something
some
like
people just aren't daddies? I think some people are just sadists, or they predominantly sadists, but I think some people just don't have daddiness about them.
So you either are or you aren't, just like you're a little or you're not a little?
Yeah. I would agree. I would say that, yeah. I mean, have you ever met guys that
You could tell immediately.
you could tell immediately they're
Yes.
not a daddy?
Yes.
Do you think
I mean,
that's because they don't have children, or just because they just can't take that role?
I feel like they probably just can't take that role.
They don't have the nurturing in them. is
Yeah,
what you're
it's
saying.
just not who they are, and it's like you can't really force people to be something that they're not. If they're not a daddy, they're probably just, it's not their thing.
Now, could you deny your little for a relationship that didn't have that aspect?
I wouldn't want to at this point. I could sacrifice that part of myself, honestly. Not something I'm willing to do in a relationship at this point in my life.
Right, but we all evolve. It may change.
Yeah, maybe one day I might. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't think I could. I don't think I could ever. Well, I don't think I could ever be in a relationship. You know what? I'll just fucking stop there. I don't think I could ever be in a relationship. That's good. I'll keep that right there. That's.
You don't think
No,
you'll
I-
ever be good in a relationship? That's what you just said?
He
Oh,
said
no,
he
I
says
suck
he
at
doesn't
them
want a
so
relationship.
Bad.
You suck?
I suck at relationships so awfully bad.
Why?
Just do. Oh, because despite being a daddy and a dom, I'm also just a horrible fucking person to be in a relationship with. I'm not good at giving of myself at that level. Relationships are about giving of yourself.
Yeah, but I see you give to a lot of people in the mentor role and
I
just
do.
in.
But that's on my terms.
So you're a selfish
Relationships
prick. Is that what you're
relationships
saying?
are a 24/7 thing.
Right.
So you have to be on those terms 24/7.
Not really. I mean, come on. You don't spend your time with a person 24/7. I mean, I have a job. I'm spending at least 40 hours outside of the relationship. Or I'm at work. And then
Paul
I'm
know about
sleeping. What?
Does Paul know about this?
I know, right?
He encourages it.
It's okay.
It's bringing the money
on the
in.
daily? How about on the daily? Okay.
All right.
I don't know. This
Then
is
how can you
the
say you're a
topic is
daddy
not
dom?
why does Todd suck at relationships? By the way,
You brought it up. And how can
We
you
can have
say you're
whole
a daddy
separate
dom?
conversation on that.
How can you be a daddy dom and suck at relationships? Because being a daddy dominant type personality is going to naturally make you want to be better at the relationship. I've got Connor calling in right now. Innermind canceled on us, so here's Connor. Hey Connor, how are you?
Hey, brother, how's it going?
Pretty good, man, pretty good.
He's Wild Dracos on Fetlife. But we can call him Connor, right, Connor?
Yeah, I don't
know
care either way, I
him.
think. I've been outed.
You're like,
Oh,
no.
shit.
I know, right? I know, right?
But Connor is also
Great.
Connor is exploring a brand new dynamic with a girl, the daddy dom role, and he is also a father of 2 children. So that was kind of a new thing for you, wasn't it, Connor?
It was, and that's where the show, the
Well,
concept, or
Connor, by the way.
the theme really... What's that?
He can't hear you.
I don't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear me.
Okay, we're in firm agreement over in Studio East that we don't hear it.
All right, I'm working on it. Go ahead, Connor, answer the question.
That's all right. No, I was saying, and that's one thing that resonated with me about the show is that, you know, I had never really been into it because of the fact that I'm a parent. And so it's like, it's where, you know, Kinklandia and Parentland are the 2 different worlds. Well, the more we started to get closer to it and explore that, the more I started realizing, like you were talking earlier, it's kind of, it is that nurturing thing. It is that protective thing. It's taking that same feeling as a parent and
So,
applying it to
Tony, what you
a
were saying
relationship.
is basically that this. So daddy little is kind of new to Connor at this point.
Yeah, and he was answering the question while you were going, is he answering the question? Because you can't hear him.
Oh.
So maybe we'll just give you a cue, because he can hear you, Todd. So maybe we'll just give you a cue when he's
Hi,
done
Connor.
answering the question. So
Right.
that,
Hey, brother.
so that he's not constantly interrupted by you going, did he ask the question? Did he answer the question? Did he answer the question? Because I know you can't hear him.
Technology is fun.
Yeah, we are having technical difficulties, Todd. Just, you know.
I heard him now. I hear him now.
Oh, you hear him now. Great. Okay.
It's creating technical perfection. You know,
So maybe you can
trial and
answer again for Todd how you were kind of creeped out, I think, is what you told me about, you know.
Yeah.
It was like, can I do this?
At first, yeah. I was like, that wasn't an element that I wanted to add to my sub relationship. But what I did notice going further into it, there's this, like, to capture the feeling of really deeply caring about someone and showing them that and sharing it with them and providing guidance and learning from them. It was a deeper way to dive in. And I love it now, you know. So,
and you can separate that from being a parent to your younger children versus being a parent to, or being a daddy dom.
absolutely. And that was part of it's kind of the mental, almost kind of mind fuck of it, but it's also it's learning, it's kind of breaking the veil of what's kink, what's not. It's the feeling. The feeling can be applied to anything, you know, and you know, I think it's something deeper to where these dynamics can help us in different elements of our lives. So that's where I can translate it into being a father. I can also be a daddy, you know.
So that's where you take the shift. When she calls you daddy, it doesn't feel like when your daughter calls you daddy. Totally
different. In totally different in one respect, and also similar in another. To me, it's a very interesting, like, there's a very, very distinct difference, and yet there is a very interesting similarity. Like you guys were talking earlier about, so can you be a daddy if you're not a parent? Well, I think you probably could if you can tap into what that means, you know.
And what does what does that mean? I mean, the similarities, is that just that nurturing, that wanting them to be the best that they can be, the disciplinarian? What specifically is it?
You know, kind of all those things. I think if you're not taking the dynamic of a daddy, I don't think there's quite as many responsibilities, because it's a lot. It really is, but it's important. You know, I think sometimes you can maybe drop, you know, you can take the collar off sometimes, depending on the dynamic or the relationship. But when it's kind of a daddy, baby girl thing, there's like a a tender thing that's opened up between the two people, you know,
different
or
than
between the
being
partners
a
involved.
dom sub.
Yeah, I think so.
I was going to say, Connor, would you agree? Because this has always been my opinion from being a daddy for quite a few years. Would you agree that it's actually, I think, a deeper kind of connection?
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's always been my stance on
Well,
it.
I think
it's a little bit deeper.
As a little, you're giving them something that is, I mean, for me, when I'm doing that, I'm leaving myself open, really, really vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's super vulnerable.
And so if I'm giving that to you, that's a big gift.
Right.
You know, and that felt like it was part of my responsibility to follow through with being in this role. It's important to put that extra energy in there because of what has been being given. You know, that's a very sweet and sacred thing for someone, you know, to give to another person. And I think it deserves that respect and that energy back, you know. And I think if it's just some fun, kinky, submissive up on the cross, you don't have to necessarily do that. You can even joke and say, oh, fuck your aftercare, or whatever. But when it's your little, you know, you got to call her in the morning and say good morning. And, you know, or it seems like it is a little deeper, or it can go deeper.
Well, I've heard it called that, you know, the daddy dom little dynamic is a subset of the DS dynamic to begin with.
Right.
Right.
Yep. I would say it's a segment of it now. A subset is good.
Well,
Sure,
that's what you started
sure.
out as, right, Connor? I mean,
Yep.
that was your
Absolutely.
goal, and then what? So what happened? That can you describe to us what happened when the switch when you changed over?
You know, I think the deeper we went into the Dom sub dynamic, the more vulnerable the both of us got, and I think the more it touched on those really, really sacred places that you keep, only reserved for very, very, very few. And it started to touch that. It's like, wow, didn't expect that. Okay, and let's keep kind of going with this. And again, it started off with, hi, how are you? How are you? I'm looking, what are you looking for? I'm looking to explore what this kind of dynamic as far as Dom sub is like. Let's practice. Let's do this. Let's make our mistakes. Let's do our good things, but can we do it together? And then again, it kind of got deeper. And so, and then she called me daddy, and it made my dick hard. And I thought it was great. I didn't expect that. And for a minute I was like, whoa,
why is my dick hard?
Yeah.
Why is my, right, exactly. This is, I didn't think I liked it like that. But, and again, kind of the beautiful thing about try it, you might like it, is that okay, I do appreciate this, and again, what's the worst case thing? It's like, oh, that makes me really queasy and uncomfortable. Please don't ever call me that again. That's all it needs to happen.
And so, but you had you never had anyone call you daddy, or because I know you've heard about it.
Yeah, I have, and I remember one time when I was fucking this gal, and she's like, yeah, daddy. I was like, ooh, and I proceeded harder because I liked it. It was exciting. It was a little different,
Right.
I don't know what nerve it tweaks, but it tweaks something,
So, but you never really pursued it.
Not really. I just thought it was a fun dirty talk.
Right.
Oh yeah, daddy. I didn't say, yeah, my baby girl. Again, just even saying that and feeling it, I want to cuddle my girl up when I'm saying that, because it's that place. I didn't have that same place with this other gal that called me daddy. We were just fucking. It was fun.
Right. But that term, that term baby girl is popular. I mean, we hear it in music. We hear it.
Oh yeah.
It's all over the place. And to me,
that
means something.
We also should point out, I mean, a lot of prostitutes will call their pimp daddy, and it means something completely different.
That just makes it a horrible spin on what we're talking about.
I'm just saying.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank
you, Todd. That's a great. Well, I like to be my little girl's pimp. No, wait.
Well, I've heard of other dynamics where they had that, and they did sort of pimp them out. I mean, that was their kink, was to have them fuck other guys, and it was part of the dynamic.
It's funny how then you can play with it, right? You can get creative with it, and that's where it's like. So, I mean, if that wasn't part of our dynamic, what if what if we were to all of a sudden be like, okay, baby girl, the one thing I'd like you to do, we do all this stuff, but I need you to go out and do what I tell you to do, go fuck these people. That would change it. That made me feel weird in my stomach when I said that. I was like, no, couldn't do it.
Nope,
different.
That's a
different.
red. That's a red.
Yep,
I think
that's
too,
a red.
to raise that. Okay, so I'm gonna bring that up, and I'm gonna continue what we just were talking about here, Connor, in the sense of if she came to you and said, "Hey, daddy," I can't really call someone daddy, so I'm saying this, and it's like that sounds stupid coming out of my mouth. Hey,
I like it
daddy.
a little bit, Todd.
Well, it's just for me saying it sounds dumb. I'm a 53-year-old man. It just sounds stupid. But if
Fair
she said, this is something I want to explore, this is something I feel like I need to explore for myself, and I need you there to help me with this and make sure that it's safe and make sure that I'm comfortable and cared for. But I feel I need to explore being a fuck toy object for a group of men. If she came to you see what I'm saying?
Would that be different?
Would that be different?
Yeah, you know what? If she came to me, I'd say, you need a ride, baby? I mean, it's part of my responsibility, right?
Bingo.
Like, okay,
That's the difference.
let's do it. Sure, baby. What do you need? Like, she's not my property. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. That's the difference. You would support it. You would nurture it. You would acknowledge it. You would say, okay, if that's what you need, sweetheart, that's what we'll get.
But
Like, sure, baby, let's do it.
But don't
let's give it
counter-
a shot. Now, I might like it. I might not. She might like it. She might not. You know?
That's kind of one of those things. It's like shaving your head. Till you do it, you just don't know what you're going to look like.
oh, we can tell.
Right.
We can pretty much
Oh,
tell.
yeah. I would look really weird with a shaved head for the record, but I think, no, and I think it's part of my responsibility as her daddy to help her explore that. If that's what she's into, if it's what I'm into or what she's into, it's like that's different. It's like, now I might, if it's something I'm into, right? Let's just flip that on the other side of the spectrum there.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to do that and say, hey, baby girl, I want to send you out. See, I can't. It's different. Yeah, it's different.
It is.
I would
It's
be
different.
okay with her coming up and asking that with me versus me telling her this is what I want you to do.
But don't you also have sort of an open relationship as well, Connor?
Yeah. We do.
So what, do you turn your daddy dom on and off?
No, I don't think so. No,
because
because regardless of what I'm doing or being open, I'm not looking for another baby girl. I'm not like, I don't have the energy for that. Like, I think it would be rude or disrespectful to somebody else to try to be someone else's also daddy.
Oh, so you
know.
can't have more than one baby girl.
For me personally, not at this time. I don't think I could.
Wait a minute.
I don't think I could. I like keeping that for her.
Connor, we know you. You're such a ball of freaking energy. How could you not be able to handle it?
it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. See, again, I like being kinky and pervy, and I love to fuck, and I love bodies and beautiful people, but I don't think I could have another
Playa.
girl specifically. You fucker. She has haunted me with calling me a player like once, and I'm like, I can't get it out of my mind. It's the constant, it's the juggle, and I think I've again gotten closer to figuring out that juggle of, you know, it's intent. You know?
Right. Intent does tend to define a lot of what we're doing.
I think so.
Between,
because you know, it comes from what's behind that. You know, what's behind that whipping or belt, whatever. It's like or collaring or whatever.
But isn't that a relationship, Connor? Didn't you say you didn't want to be in a relationship?
Something like Todd said?
At one point, I would have run screaming the F word and the R word, feelings and relationship. Red! Oh my God! The scariest words in Kinklandia. You know, feelings and relationship.
No, but I think Connor hit on something that I really want to say here is that is the biggest reason why I say I suck at relationships. It's because the only relationship that I would find that I would want would be a daddy little girl relationship, and they take a lot of your time and effort, and they're kind of exhausting. And I don't know that I have that kind of time on my plate at this moment in time.
Well, you're fucked. I mean, it's a catch-22 in that one because you're like, this is what I want, but I really can't do it.
But that's just priorities.
I can't fit it right now.
Sure.
That's priorities, and
Right,
that's
you said
fine.
right now.
The show is one of my priorities, so.
Sure, fair enough. It's very
It doesn't
important.
take that much of your time, Todd.
What's that?
It doesn't take that much of your time.
The show and
Couple hours a week.
are very time-consuming.
Real estate.
It's about priorities. If that's not your priority right now, if a relationship isn't your priority, I commend you for not getting involved in one and fucking it up because you can't give.
Right.
Right.
And I know that's what I do.
But I think that with Connor too, it was rather a surprise.
It was.
Right. Wasn't it something to do with that smile or something when you were playing with her?
Yeah, the haunting smile that's known across the land. Yeah, that's the one. Well, it was funny. Again, it's one of those like not being afraid, like using the lifestyle to have as therapy and to be like, okay, like again, to not sit around and say, oh, I'm afraid of relationships. It's like, okay, I'm going to try to not be afraid of relationships. I'm going to try to not be afraid of getting to get close and vulnerable with someone. And holy shit, like, it's not bad. It's actually very good. It feels great. And, and it's and it's working with each other's terms and communicating and using the dynamic, I mean,
it's about communication.
It is an adventure. All about communication. Because there's some times where I'll play with something of like, okay, this is in the dynamic role. I need to do this. Like if she starts kicking at me, right? So I need to put her in her place a little, or just let her know. And maybe she's bratting because she is testing me. I'll ask her, "Are you testing me, honey?" And so through time and through trial and error, we learn how to do that. So when I do go to pull her out of that spot and I go to hit her boobs just a little bit, like, no, I have to be nice to her girl. Like, I need to learn that,
It's interesting you say that, kind of, because there is a certain, and I don't really know how pervasive it is, but there does seem to be a certain level of brattiness in little girls, self-identified littles in a daddy-dom little relationship. It's like, I don't know, I can't think of the last daddy-dom little girl relationship that I've seen people have where there isn't a little bit of brat in the little.
Well, and you know what? That's isn't that the truth? And it's it's a learned behavior a little bit. So then we react to the brattiness so they kind of get what they want. And we're like, hey, don't do that. But hey, I'm going to do that. It's a funny psychological circle, It's like, well,
right.
It's an attention getter.
Don't be so. What's that?
It's an attention getter.
It is. And you know what? And really, what is it? It's like, hey, give me attention. Hey,
well,
I like to have attention.
When you're actually, for me, when I'm actually in the little mode, I am a little. And so my ability to communicate like an adult is not there anymore. So I start communicating like a little would, and a little would brat to get attention.
Then it's kind of playful. And it's kind of this playful thing.
Right. You don't expect a 6-year-old, if that's what you're going to be, a 6-year-old to tell you, can I have some attention, please?
Excuse me, I would like some Cheerios now.
I would like some rubbins, please. Some cuddles.
I would like you to acknowledge where I'm at right now.
Cuddles. Could you cuddle me, please? So
it has come to my attention.
Exactly. So that's the brat. What you call the brat is really just us doing what a normal 6-year-old or whatever your age was. That's the behavior that you should expect. And that's how you get into that mindset, is you have to understand that they're communicating like they would at whatever age that they're associating with.
Right.
And do you think as a little that it's kind of a nice freedom to be able to do that, even as a little at whatever age you actually physically are?
Fuck yeah.
It's like, yay, I love when I can be like, it's like, oh, this feels good, because ain't no way in hell I'm going to be like that otherwise. But
right. There's a real freedom in that. And I get upset when people call it bratting, because I don't really view it that way. Because I view it as...
What? I'm not trying to use bratting in the negative term, and I didn't want to...
Why are you taking things so personal?
No, I don't take things so personal. I wasn't implying that being brat was bad, Tony. I was just implying that
I wasn't talking about you, Todd. You're taking it personally. Stop projecting.
Did you just call me a fat fuck?
I'm not allowed to use those terms. I don't know what you're talking about.
Behave, little girl. Behave.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, shit.
So we got to wrap it up. Wrap it up.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. That was fun. I love the show.
Thanks, Connor.
Thank you, Connor.
You have a good one, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, my friends. Ciao. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. We've been running about 54 minutes, so it's about time for the good old wrap-up anyway.
I would agree.
Go ahead, Todd. I'll let you start it off.
So So my final thought on this is that daddy-dom relationships and mommy-dom relationships with littles are not something to really be scared of. It's not something that is creepy, and it may sound creepy to you if you're not exposed to it, But if you are involved with someone or becoming involved with someone who is interested in that type of relationship, keep an open mind, do some digging, talk to some people, really look at it for what it is, which is just a very deep, caring, loving type of relationship. That's my 2 cents.
Ms. Rhea? Any final thoughts?
You can say no.
No.
Okay.
No.
How about you, Tony?
Yeah, what I forgot to touch on was that I have a big little. And he doesn't call me mommy, but I take on that. He's my big little. And he's just, he gets comfort from me giving him hugs, from me accepting him the way he is. And he's, I guess I don't even really describe it. I just say he's my big little, and I feed him, and I guess I take on that role, but it's purely platonic.
It's a mentoring. It's a mommy mentor.
Yeah, I guess I do give him tough love. You know, I do get disappointed in him, and he gets upset about that. But, you know, I just look at him as my big little. And so I guess I can take that mommy role in a platonic way. But like I said, like we said before, it's not really the mommy thing. It's more of a mentor.
Right.
So.
Well, it's mommy. I kind of not sure. I'm not sure. If you are mentoring someone who occupies some form of little space, by default, as a mentor, you are being a mommy or a daddy to a certain extent, because they're coming to you the same way they would come to a mommy or daddy.
Yes.
Not for any sexual needs, but for advice and counsel and wisdom and, you know,
affection.
Hugs and
affection. Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's you're occupying that same space, just you took the sexuality out of it. So it's still...
I think the biggest part of being a mommy or a daddy dom is acceptance, is accepting the little and nurturing the little and understanding that they are, in actuality, internally that age or that age group, whatever that they are when they're doing that, and understanding that and trying to understand it.
Oh, one more final thought. Don't confuse someone who does childish things with a little.
Right.
Right. There's a
Two
difference.
different things. There are adults who just do childish shit. You know, they do puzzles or they color or whatever. That doesn't make them a little.
No. Little's more of the overall attitude and behavior, period.
It's a mindset.
Right. Mindset. So that wraps it up for today, folks. Thanks for joining
remember
us.
to contribute to Patreon so that we can continue these great shows.
And we will see you again soon. Thank you.
Have a good night.